Hello, alright, you're listening to the Gritty Bowman, home of gritty bow hunting films, interviews, tall tales, and a wee bit of manly boasting.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
This week on Gritty Bowman, we are on Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska. In this podcast, we share how we hunted the island, the bear hunting tactics that worked for us, and we talk about the challenges that come with hunting southeast Alaska. And you'll hear a little about how we killed our bears. We've added bits and pieces of video and a sprinkling of photographs from our hunt to this podcast to help those watching the podcast get a feel for what southeast Alaska is like, to give you a small taste of bear hunting in this part of the world.
If you like this show, please go to our website at grittybowman.com and subscribe to this podcast and tell your mates and pals about us. Do us a favour and please take a moment to leave us a rating or a review on iTunes or on our YouTube channel. Send your questions and podcast ideas to grittybowman@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, you can see the video version of this podcast on our website at www.grittybowman.com.
I drew the Prince of Wales bear tag with my good friend Chad Nelson. Chad and I were college roommates together in Idaho, where we spent as much time as we could in the outdoors. We've been close ever since our college days. He's like a brother to me. In addition to Chad, my dad and my little brother Brent came along for the ride, which made an awesome trip exponentially better. Chad, Brent, and I shot this podcast in the Shelter Cove Lodge on our last night on the island after a long 10-day hunt with very little sleep. We were a bit tired, but we got it done while the hunt was still fresh in our minds. I'm Brian Call, and I'm your host, and without further ado, here's today's podcast.
I bet there's spots on Brian's butt that are pink too, from the big holes in his underwear.
Dude.
And Brian clearly didn't bring enough underwear because the last 3 days he's been wearing them inside out.
Dude. You get a few extra wears out of your underwear when
Sometimes,
you turn
man,
inside
you gotta do it. It's that or nothing at all, and that's just acceptable.
I thought I would have time to wash my underwear, and that did not happen.
We brought 2 coolers, big tent, massive truck with a canopy, and Brian couldn't pack 2 more pair of underwear.
So welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast, where my buddies throw me into the bus. We're in Prince of Wales, Alaska, coming at you from our hotel room. I did this little baby on my ankle, packing out my bear. Dude, look at that. Look at that, man.
The price of packing out a very big bear.
I haven't sprained my ankle like this in like 10 years. I'm like Superman.
Dude, your feet look like you're a hobbit.
Dude,
Look at the bottom of your feet, dude. They're cakes
look at
and
all that
crap.
purple right there.
That's how you know it's
That's
tendon.
really swollen.
So I fall on the ground, packing this
laugh.
bear. I've got like a 190-pound pack.
Yeah.
It was
I got-
heavy.
I've got a
We'll give
heavy-
him that.
I've
It
got
was
a heavy pack. Okay. This is easy. Dude, this is heavy, dude.
Yes.
I don't know how big this bear is, but this is. I've carried 100-pound packs a lot. I think it's 7,500 cubic inches, up to mostly to the top with dense meat. You know, and that head and height.
That bear had way more meat than any of us anticipated.
Oh, I was really shocked how much meat just kept coming off. The shoulders.
Roast after roast
The
after
neck.
roast.
It's literally like we caped out a lowland gorilla. It was just ridiculous.
They're awesome. His head and muzzle, his teeth look like a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first walked up on him, I was like, that's a grizz head right there. I mean,
Yes.
I was like, whoa! I could not believe it.
Well,
I knew he was big, but
he was well over 400 pounds. Might have been pushing 500 pounds.
yeah.
Just, I mean, estimating.
We're packing out, embarrassingly, on a gravel road.
pretty flat.
But
Flat.
in Prince of Wales, on Prince of Wales Island, they have these rock quarries where they mine rocks out of the earth, and they're like boulders that are just crushed up, and so you'll have a super flat road, and then on it you'll have like some big giant rock that just sort of sits there. And I just had that heavy pack on, and when my ankle went, normally when your ankle bends, I'll just give out and catch it before it pops or anything. But that pack was so heavy, it just went.
It just body slammed him. Wham!
Chad,
Yeah.
this is how meat is made.
Yeah, brother.
For those folks out there who forgot where it came from. It's from the woods. You kill it, take it home, you make meat.
There's no other way.
He should taste good.
He looks nice.
Springtime bear, the meat looked good. That last bear I shot, when you squeezed his legs, it was like Crisco.
Greasy.
Greasy.
Yeah.
This guy is looks like elk meat.
It looked that dark red. Looked like the steaks were aged already.
All right. Brutal. So I fall down on this trail, eat it like a sack of bricks because I got a 190-pound pack on, and I hit the ground, and Chad stands over me,
I was concerned.
but also debating whether he should be pulling out his camera to film it. It hurt bad. Like, I felt it pop, and then I laid on the ground and I wanted to puke from the shearing pain of it. It hurt bad. It's purple everywhere. Even the whole bottom of my foot is purple.
It's pretty swollen.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I got a few other marks, injuries, like this bug bite here, which that's not too bad. This bug bite, that one hurt.
That one's not bad, but the other one, I think you should still get it checked.
This one right here, though, dude, what the crap is that? I mean,
If you
sorry,
If you didn't stink so much, you wouldn't have tracked all the
dude,
bugs.
it's like I got
Chad's got a
something
point.
there, and it just hurts like heck. My whole leg swelled up. Like, it's muscular, I know, but it's but this is more than its normal swole. Dude, though, it just, this place, I don't know, the whole leg is cherry red right in here.
We all look like we've been beat.
Yeah, I didn't even know I had this rash here. I don't know what that's from.
Chad hit some Devil's Club.
I think that's what it is.
If you haven't seen that here, it's some spiky plant from hell that...
It looks like a pretty plant, and if you grab it,
Yeah.
which I did, you find out really quickly.
It's got like 1,000 bristles and about this much
It's got
space.
the tiniest needles, like millions upon millions. If you grab that, you grabbed it? Did you not see all the
No.
dangerous needles poking out of it?
They are hidden.
I was walking,
Underneath
one
the dainty-
grazed my hand, and I
It's
got
a
7
really
of them.
crappy surprise. And I had gloves on, but it was just my merino wool gloves. And
Oh, that's nothing, dude.
Yeah, we're coming down the hill as I'm packing my bear. And I'm like walking around the Devil's Club. And I'm like, and I see Chad all in the midst of it. And I'm like, you like that Devil's Club? And he's like, is that what this is called? Completely
It's appropriately named.
hadn't.
it sucks.
You saw the pretty leaves and you thought, what a nice plant.
That's one of those plants that you think, thanks Adam and Eve for getting kicked out of the garden.
Dude, that swamp was riddled with that. Sinkholes, pits,
Yeah.
slippery mossery,
Yeah.
logs.
Yeah, so it's thick here. Crazy thick here. And hiking through the woods when you can only see 3 or 4 feet in front of you, going after monster bears can be a little unnerving.
Yeah, a lot unnerving, especially after you've shot one, and which we both did. We had to track 2 bears, and you can't see 5 feet in front of you, and there's potentially
Not only that,
a really pissed off bear hiding in there.
when we did find the bears, we almost stepped on top of them. Like, they're so well hidden, you can't see them until you're ready to walk on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was many times I think I turned to you and I was like, why in the H did I bring these binoculars? Because you can't even use them.
I mean, why did I even bring these things? You can't use them.
All right, I'm going to have you film. Yeah, you were going through some frustration because Chad he's not from the Northwest.
No.
He's hunted wide open Western country, and this is not that place. So,
Not at all.
no.
I think there's some rule here in Alaska where you can't have more than 1 square foot without a plant growing in it. And
It's like the Oregon coast on steroids.
how many times did Brent pull out the machete and we had to go by pruning shears literally to clip branches to track our bears and hopefully find a blood trail.
Yeah. No, it's thick. Now, before this bear hunt, Chad had not hunted bears before.
No.
You'd never been chasing bears, so
No, been putting in for bears for a lot of years, but wasn't fortunate enough to draw a tag until now.
we drew this Prince of Wales tag together. I've chased my share of bears now, and I've seen them up close. You know, I've laid hands on them, I've skinned them, gutted them, I've seen them. And before I did my first Prince of Wales bear, I just really didn't have a healthy respect for bears. I wasn't really that afraid of a bear. I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, I'd like the bear will run away. You know, I mean.
That's what black bears do,
Yeah.
normally.
And but then when I got my first big bear, Prince of Wales bear on the ground, and he's like the size of a grizzly bear, and I just the sheer, the paws, the muscle, the size, the bone, and it's just I developed a respect for bears that I didn't have before. I really just didn't have it. I came here my first hunt to Prince of Wales, and I brought a bow, and that was it. No gun, no pistol, no sidearm, no rifle, no bear spray. Just Brian and his bow and arrow, which probably wasn't the brightest thing to do.
I could see my brother trying to kill a bear with a stick.
And after I shot that bear, the first bear here, and just the size of him, I was like, you are an idiot, Brian. An idiot. Why go out here without, just walking alone by myself out here with these giant roaming man-eaters? Big bears, I mean,
Yeah.
temperament-wise, they're more likely to run from you than kill you, but still, the potential to kill you, the ease with which they could do that is crazy. I mean, it's just they're such a big animal.
Oh, it was crazy. I think that's the biggest impression I'm going to take away from this hunt was I had the same experience on this trip that you just described. I'd never been up close and personal to a bear before.
Yeah. I have a healthy respect for bears that I did not have a week ago.
And I can say now I'm a little bit afraid of bears. And I wasn't before.
Yeah.
After caping out these bears and skinning them and just seeing the bulging muscles on their neck and head, I mean, the bear you shot could probably grab me, lift me up off the ground, and
He
toss
was
me
so
like
big,
a
it took us
ragdoll.
4 hours to cape and cut him up.
Yeah.
I've never spent
When I
half
walked-
that amount of time on an animal before.
When I walked up on him, now the first bear I shot on Prince of Wales, he's a real big bear. Skull's 19, almost 20 inches, and that bear was big. He was really old. Body-wise, though, he wasn't like this bear I shot. So this bear I shot was 20 and 3/16 skull, but body-wise, just they had a really mild winter here. So we were talking to the sealer, the bear in Alaska. you have to take your bear to a sealer, a person they call a sealer, and then they measure some. They take a tooth out to judge age, and
Yep.
they do all this stuff to seal your bear so you can take it home.
All for statistics. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were saying that that there's really no winter here, and they seriously doubt that the bear's even hibernated at all, especially a bear of his size. He probably just ate his way through the entire winter and just kept on going.
Well, when we opened your bear up, we were shocked to see how much fat was on him.
Yeah,
A lot of fat. And that's probably why, because maybe
Yeah.
he didn't hibernate.
the size of him. We have a picture of him on the game camera where he's standing up and he's looking right at the camera, and the dude looks like I think it's black and white. It's a nighttime infrared photo. He looks like a grizzly bear. Like you wouldn't know that that's a black bear. He's ridiculous. He looks huge.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the black bears we're seeing on average that we got on camera, on game camera, that we were tracking this hunt, he just was just so big. I mean, it made me a little leery about walking down a narrow game trail with no cover.
Well, when
with no visibility.
when we recovered him, and he'd fallen behind a log, so we couldn't see him. We had to track him in order to recover him. And the way he was laying, and I walked up and saw his paws and his forearms, my initial thought was, that looks like a gorilla. His arms were so big.
Yeah.
But you mentioned trail cameras, so maybe we should get into
Tactics. Bear hunting tactics.
because the trail cameras were a big help for us on this trip.
Yeah. So there's a number of ways you can hunt bear on Prince of Wales Island. Being that it's so thick, glassing for them is not really that effective. There are fresh burns or cuts, logging cuts, where you can glass into them. Although bears didn't spend a lot of time in those. The new ones are too slashed for anything in there to attract the bears, and the old ones are too tall for you to see in them anyway. Once they're 5 or 6 feet, it's so thick you can't see through the vegetation. It's not an open cut anymore.
Well, maybe it was just the area of the island that we were hunting, but not once did we pull out the binoculars and find a bear.
Yeah, on a big wide open glass. You can glass some muskegs, some open country.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're right. We went and looked at big overhangs and peaks, and I'll admit, last time when I was here with my Uncle Kevin, we did glass up a few here and there that way. But once you spotted them, they weren't really shootable. I mean,
They're so far away.
and to get there, you had to chop your way through a jungle.
Yeah. So the trail cameras, we were seeing a lot of sign though where we were hunting.
Yes.
On these logging roads.
You can walk logging roads and just walk them with the wind in your face and just still hunt up those roads and then just hope that you see a bear on the road or intercept a bear on the road. But you got a wall of brush on each side of the roads except for the occasional muskeg, which is just a swamp that wants to swallow you.
This whole island wants to eat you, dude.
And it almost did a few times.
Yes.
Dude.
You'd sink up to your knee and
I was
what
walking-
looks like grass, and you're walking along, and then loop, you're down.
I was walking a logging road, and there must have been a sinkhole in the middle of it because it just ate my foot, then ate me up to the knee, and then all of a sudden my thigh, all the way up to my crotch, is just in the ground. And I totally thought something would just yank my leg down, and was gonna eat it or something. I panicked for a second.
When we were skinning my bear, cleaning my bear up, he basically was in a swamp, and it was just a mud pit, and my boots were in there and all wet, and there was a sinkhole right there where we were working, and we just kept throwing rocks and logs and more logs and rocks, and it just kept eating everything we put in that hole until we finally had a a deck we could stand on without sinking into the
And it was a
mud.
little
was
scary
like 5
because
or
Brian
6.
was doing this with the knife. Whoa.
We all slipped at least 3 or 4 times with knives in our hands.
And ate it straight on the back. Bam.
Keep telling Chad, I'm not gonna stab you, and then I'm like,
He got my finger once.
After the bear goes down, the work begins. Whoa.
stab yourself. Stupid island's trying to swallow me. How many times have I gone down like that on camera?
A lot.
Just
Dude, that's one thing. You get stabbed out there, you're done for. You ain't getting you out of there.
yeah.
We barely got that bear out of there.
You don't want to mix blood with the bears, but back to the trail cameras.
So my thing was, I didn't want to hunt. I didn't want to just walk up the road and hope I intercepted a bear at the same time it came on the road.
Well, we tried that for days.
But I've tried that
Well-
before too, and it wasn't that
We got
effective.
lucky the first day. And I think that kind of made us think about doing it more.
Well, I already had a plan before I came here from my experience last time I was here. And basically, when I shot my bear, I was way far from a logging road, deep into the woods. I'd gone out into the woods, and I shot him, a couple hundred yards from the road. And and when it's that thick, you can find some pretty heavily pounded game trails. And the bear I shot was really large last time I was here. And we had seen a lot of smaller bears up on the road. So I just wondered, hey, if I bring my game cameras this time and hang them up on some of these trails, I just want to know what's happening out there. And a game camera allows me to just know if I should spend time in this area or not. And it's like Christmas morning whenever you get the card out and there's something there, So it just makes hunting kind of fun because it's all the scouting and exploring at the same time. So we took game cameras, which I think was a game changer for us on this trip. It made all the difference.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And we hung those cameras up on trails and roads where we saw major sign. And if there was a giant bear scat, there was one that looked like a horse. And right where we hung it, where we found my horse that I shot,
Well, we saw that scat, and that was the first thing that I grew up around horses. And that's exactly what it looked like to me. The pile was as big as if it came from a horse.
This is big, and so we were pretty we saw that and it was fresh. It was like steaming. We're like, whoa, check your back, Is a bear behind you? But we were both got eyes as big as saucers, and we hung a camera right there. And we're like, hey, he was here before. Maybe he'll come down this trail again.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty sweet, giving us that view. Now, you hadn't been here. You've never hunted bears before. So judging a bear, tell folks about that.
Well, so the first bear we saw apparently was a shooter.
It's hard
Yes,
to
it
say.
was, Chad. It was a shooter.
And, yeah, so we saw 11 bears this week on this trip, and looking back now in hindsight, that was definitely a nice bear. And
Yeah.
I wished I had reacted a little quicker, tried to get a shot at that bear, but I just didn't know.
Yeah. I have the camera. Well, I have this on film, in fact. We pull up and we're driving down the road. And by the way, there's no small game animals on this island. There's 2 things on this island. There's bear and deer and fish out in the ocean and then
And
rivers
bald eagles.
And birds.
and birds. But there's not a squirrel. I didn't see a single squirrel.
No rabbits?
Chipmunk. No rabbits. They might be here. They're just not anywhere where we
And
were.
we saw a sparrow today fighting off that crow. That's about it.
And there's lots of birds. I saw
Yeah.
a ton of birds. I
Birds
filmed a lot of
everywhere.
birds. Very curious about the
Yeah.
species as well, but not a lot of small game animals.
But we saw the bird in the road, which is why we stopped.
The ptarmigan.
Where we saw that
Yeah.
first bear.
Which is just like a ptarmigan, which is like a chicken, and it was just nesting in the middle of the road. We drove up the hill and turned around and drove back, and it's just sitting there.
Truck's like 3 feet from it.
Yeah, we pulled right up on top of it, and I'm like, well, if it's not going to move, let's get the camera out. So I get the camera out, I got my car door
And
open.
we've only been on the island for what, 2-3 hours at this point?
Yeah, Chad's got a gun in
That
the
was-
front seat.
Well, this is
The next day.
This is the next day.
It's been so long.
We got here Sunday, and this was Monday.
Monday. So I'm filming the chicken, and I'm looking at the chicken, and they're all looking at the bird. And I look up, out of the corner of my eye, I see this big bear just walk right, and the car's running, and we're making jokes about the dumb bird in the road.
The radio's on.
Radio's on, country's blaring,
So we're not being quiet.
and this bear just walks out in front of the truck like 50 yards.
Yeah.
And he's just eating grass. And I see him, and I see he's got a beautiful coat, like not rubbed
No rubs.
at all.
Yeah.
Not rubbed at all. The whole thing was just shaggy, gorgeous. And so I'm like, Chad, grab your gun, shoot it, don't hesitate, because I knew that you probably would want to be very cautious about shooting a bear in the first hour of the first day when you've never been on a bear hunt at all, and you weren't sure. You didn't get a look at it like I did, in terms of how big it was and how good the coat was and
Right.
all of that. So I'm telling you to shoot, and you're going, well, I don't know. There's a bear, Chad, right there in the road. See it? Get your gun out. Lean out, Chad. Hurry, don't hesitate. Move. He doesn't know you're there. Hurry up. And bear behavior.
Yeah, so, being a first bear hunt, for me, there's a few things I learned this week that I didn't know when we had that first bear encounter. Two thoughts were going through my mind was, first, I don't know if he's a shooter or not. I want to get a good look at him, check the other side of his coat. The second thought going through my mind was, man, if I fling this truck door open and jump out with a rifle, that bear's going to bolt. My previous hunting experience with deer and elk were, man, when they're out, they're going to sit still, they're going to graze, they're going to present a good shot. Well, what I learned this week with bear behavior is those things do not sit still, not for a second. And you've only got about 4 or 5 seconds to pull your gun up and get a shot off.
Well, if you're in the West where it's open,
Yeah.
you could potentially they keep moving, but they're moving through a big wide open space.
Yeah, you're going to get a better shot.
Here, 4 or 5 seconds because they're in an opening and then they're gone again in the thicket. And they
The
don't
only
hold
openings
still.
are the roads. They step off the road, you don't see them.
No. And then they occasionally go into some old growth, which then you under the canopy of the trees you can see. You can see a little more, but for the most part, and in muskegs, but again, you still only have seconds generally.
Yeah.
Now I've spot and stalk here a few times where I've spotted a bear out feeding in a grassy meadow or along a logging road, and it just kept going in circles and moving around and staying there, and I was able to stalk it for like 20 minutes until I got right on top of it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, though, when I have encountered a bear here, it's given me only a few moments. It's moving somewhere in and out of space I can see.
Well, all 11 bear encounters with us, we didn't get more than 10 seconds to look at any of them. And some of them a lot less than that. So
Yeah,
it happens quick.
it does. Hunting bears using game cameras out here was the way to go. And what I did, so let's tell folks what happened. So we hung a camera up where we found good sign,
Yeah.
couple cameras up, and then we'd go back and check them. Just drive down the road and check our cameras. What we were learning was there were bears on the road right behind us or right before us the same time we walked the road.
Yeah.
And walking the road multiple times, I was like, well, they'll get our scent on the road and then they'll quit coming across the road and stuff. They'll get spooked away from the road and all that. They didn't care.
No.
They didn't care. They just happened to be on the road when we were there, like moments after we left, and didn't care. And if we came back to the same road 3 days in a row, it did not scare them off.
Well, Brent, the one day Brent drives us up in the truck, drops us off. He's driving back to camp, runs into a bear, and we just driven by it
Yep.
2 minutes earlier.
Yep.
So they were everywhere.
But what was happening is we would walk up the road with the wind in our face, and we'd get past a spot, and a bear would come behind us
Yeah.
and crap on the road. And we'd turn around and come back, and less than an hour later, and a bear had gone by. But we weren't there. We were further up the road when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then sign would happen before us instead of, the bear would be on the road. By the time we got there, it'd be too late. So trying to be on the road, and these roads curve and turn, and so you only have about 50 to 100 yards on a long stretch. Most of the time, though, you got 30 yards on some of those windy roads to see, and then 30 yards to the next turn, and 30 yards at the next turn.
I mean, if we happened to intercept them using that tactic, it would set us up for an ideal shot because we'd be downwind, we'd see the bear. Before it saw us, we could set up for a good shot.
Yes.
But as it turned out, that never happened.
Now, we didn't have a boat. We weren't cruising the shorelines for bears eating mussels and stuff like that. So, I'm sure that's a tactic that works.
Yeah.
Stephen Ranilla did it on Meat Eater, I saw. But for us, we were hunting the logging roads in the forest, and I was hunting near where I killed my big bear last time. So what I did was we hung those cameras and got some cool footage. We started seeing bear activity. So Chad set up on a road.
The other thing the cameras told us was these bears are active all day long. In fact, both of us shot our bears midday.
Yeah. That's one thing that I had never known before. I wasn't sure. The cameras let us know that the bears at 4:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night, which is how long it's sunny.
Yeah. Sun comes up at 4 a.m. here.
Dude, days are so long.
So we've been putting in 18-hour days, super long days.
I have
completely exhausted.
I'm burnt. These are such long days here. And, we've been putting in for this tag for a while, and we drew it. When you draw it like a year and a half before you actually come and do the hunt.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you only have your window, and you want to make it count. So I was forcing myself, get up. I didn't have a bear yet. Get up in the morning and hunt all day. I mean, I'm going hard till the end, So we were pushing it really hard, but it paid off in the end. But it took the whole time. It's like we were narrowing the game cameras and the tactics, and until we finally figured out, something that would work and narrow it down.
We had your dad and Brent here, who acted as camp cooks and totally took care of us. So we'd come back to camp, have a hot meal, jump right in bed.
And a hot shower.
Hot shower, up at 4:35 in the morning, at it again. So it enabled us to...
Yeah, we stayed in the wall tent out there on
Magical wall tent.
Wall tent off a logging road, and that worked out great. That worked out really great. And yeah, my dad here, that was sweet. So it did allow us to just hunt from morning till dark.
Yeah.
But
early in the week, the tactic we used, which involved a lot of hiking,
yeah,
we busted our tails.
But that was part of putting the cameras up and figuring out what the bears were doing, where the big bears were.
Yeah.
And I had thought about this before I brought my tree stand because there's a time and place for using a tree stand. And after we hiked really hard and we started figuring out where bears were in the area, I just feel like I can sit on a stretch of road, for example, which is what I did. Sat on a logging road. They gave me like how far do you think that was end to end?
Oh, 150 yards.
Yeah, 150 yard stretch of road where I'm on it in my tree stand and I can see a midway between the two and I can see the entire stretch of road.
Yeah.
This allows me to basically, with the bear activity that's in the area, to be there when a bear comes across the road or comes into the road.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's a lot of visibility for this island.
right. And so instead of me walking around and pushing stuff and my wind going everywhere, I got up in a tree really, really high and I sat there and waited and just let the forest talk to me. And when I was up there, it was pretty cool because I started to see some bear behaviors and some deer behaviors that I wouldn't see if you're on the ground.
And hear it.
And hear it. So I'm on this road and out in front of me, I'm in this tree and I've heard bears walking through the woods before. But I hear this bear and he's about 50 yards in front of me in the trees. But I can't see him because it's too thick. He's walking through those trees and he is just falling timber, knocking logs over, breaking stuff. It just like sounds like Godzilla coming through the woods. Crack, crack, crack. And while this is going on, there's this black-tailed doe right underneath my tree stand. She's been smelling and walking around it all over. She jerks her head up and she runs over to check out what that is. And it's so funny to see that interaction. So I can see bits and pieces of the bear through the woods as he's just breaking stuff and going through the woods. And that doe runs in, looks at the bear, comes back out, starts eating grass on the road.
The deer just here have no survival instincts whatsoever, dude. There's been 4 times, at least on sound, right? If I was fast enough, I probably could have slapped a deer.
Well, the one thing that I was going to say that I didn't go over, so you can bait on the island.
Well, yeah, we brought the tree stands with the thought of maybe setting up the bait station.
Yes. I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to do spot and stock. Wanted to try to get a bear without using any bait. So,
Well, and part of all the hiking we did the initial couple days was looking for a potential bait site,
yep.
which we never found.
So that was like a last
Last resort.
resort. Well, once we started finding where these bears were traveling, and we were able to get into a tree stand, I was able to get into a tree stand. You sat on the ground, but did the same thing. Instead of walking and hiking and hiking and hiking, you picked a spot where there was a lot of bear activity, and you just waited for a bear to come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked the spot by the horse poop size scat,
Mm-hmm.
hoping Bart the bear would come walking down this alder alley, which he didn't, but I ended up getting my bear just a couple 100 yards from that spot.
Yes, which was pretty cool. We actually happened to sit in that area and then decide, okay, it's time to hike. It's time to go back to camp. We came up the road just to there's a doe standing there watching us for 15 minutes, and finally she just beds down right there from us, about 50 yards, and we're like, seriously? And we're like, well, it's time to go. So we get up and start walking out. When we get close to her, she's like, oh, I better get up and move. She gets up and moves. Well, we're just sitting there going, well, doe's gone, Next thing we know, we look up, and there's this monster bear walking straight toward us, and I'm like, Chad, there's a bear in the road. And I get the camera up, and we film it, and Chad shoots his first bear.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
sweet.
looking bear, dude.
Yeah, it's a good first bear.
It's a great bear. Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
So the moral of the story here is, if you just stop and film birds and deer, a bear's gonna come walking out.
Dude, how do you know? After that, every time I saw another animal, I completely ignored it. Was looking for the bear.
Well, that's another pattern right there. It's like, if you sit still, animals will come to you.
Yeah.
If you sit still, animals will come to you. More often than not, I find that if you sit still, they'll come to you than if you're out pushing them and walking around.
Yeah.
It just works very well. A lot of times when we had our sightings, it was because we stopped to film a bird, we stopped to film some wildlife, we stopped to talk, we stopped to rest, and something comes up on us.
Well, we logged, I don't know, 20 miles up and down these logging roads and trying to be quiet. In fact, one night Brian took his boots off and was just walking in his socks. But like you said, unless you intercept them, I think so many times we walked by bears that were just on the side of the road, but you can't see them.
Well, that night particularly, I put those socks on because there wasn't wind, there wasn't anything. It was just dead silent.
Yeah.
So I started sneaking down the gravel road in my stocking feet, my socks. Chad was hanging back about 50 yards behind me. And
I thought for sure Brian's smelly feet was going to bring a bear in, but that didn't happen.
well, we're walking down the road, and right off the road we hear brake, crash, brake, rooting, and this bear is just beating the forest down, and it's probably 20 yards from us.
So close.
And I'm like, Chad, sneak down there and shoot that bear. I had a camera. I was the cameraman. Chad was the shooter that day. And Chad looks at me like, oh, no.
Sounds like Godzilla down there.
Plus it's like so thick. You can't, it's like.
If that was back home in Utah or some other place where you could actually see, yeah, I'd go after it.
Or sneak.
But
Yeah, right.
You can't sneak it up on something.
It was so thick. It was like
it's impossible.
You by the time
you're snapping
touch-
branches,
yeah.
stepping on rubber leaves, or you're getting stuck in a sinkhole.
there was no sneaking up on it. I was just teasing Chad. But so we kind of had to pass that bear because it was in such a thick bush. So we hoped it might come out on the road. We waited a long time, and then it just made noise and went deeper into the thick cover. And so we went down the road again. And again, about 100 yards down, another bear, 150 yards.
Yeah.
Another
Same
bear,
thing.
same thing, crashing, breaking stuff, glimpses of it, but can't go in there, can't sneak up on it. So we're waiting on the road, and it slowly goes silent and moves off. Go down the road a little bit further, third time it happens. And by then I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And the third time was intense. This bear was like, just doing crap.
He was rooting skunk cabbage and tearing up the ground.
And we're about 20 yards from where the bear is, and this black-tailed buck was shooting out of the bushes right where the bear is, like, I have had enough, he is too close to me. And he comes out and he sees us and he's like, whoa, and starts going down the road. Well, so that bear was, again, it was getting dark though, and again, we couldn't sneak up on him. So that stretch of road though had 3 bears on it in a short distance. And we were that close, and I'm like, if we just sit the road, bear's gonna walk out on it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 20 yards from it.
Yeah, and we learned the same thing from the trail cameras. We let them sit for 3 days before we went and checked. And how many bears had gone by. If we'd just been sitting the road, we would have had
Multiple bear opportunities
bear
in one
encounters.
day.
Yeah.
In one day. If you just get in there from, and that was the thing, is they could be moving at 4 a.m., they could be moving at 10, they can 2:30 in the afternoon, 11, 10, it was random. Everywhere. But bear activity moved all day long. So basically the stats are climb into a tree.
Yeah. If you're
Or find a spot where the wind is good and just sit and wait a spot.
Yeah, if you're opposed to baiting, you don't need to bait. You can just throw a tree stand up in a tree and sit a trail, sit a logging road, and you're going to see bears. And you'll get to pick and shoot a nice one.
Well, and the other thing too with a game camera, and this is the same for all animals that you're shooting. Now, I like to use a game camera. There's some people who don't like game cameras, feel like it's cheating, but with the game camera, I'm able to learn things about the forest that I wouldn't be able to on my own. I can't be in 10 different places on the same weekend,
Well, it's cool. You get pictures of more than just what you're hunting.
Well, that's what I was just about to say is then you can also go, I'm going to pass on this bear and this bear because I've seen this bear. I've seen that giant bear.
Which is exactly what you did.
Which is what I did, yeah. After Chad tagged out, we were checking the game camera on one of our trails, and we saw a great bear. We're like, I'll shoot that bear. And then we check it again, and I'll shoot that bear. That one's bigger. Then we check it again, and I'm like, holy moly, did you see the size of that bear? It just changed everything. I was like, wow, that bear is like, what'd you say, Brent? Mr. T in the woods with bling bling?
Yes.
He has 2 ear tags from Fish and Game, and the picture's shining, and his ears are twinkling, and it's like, oh, giant grizz in the woods.
We were thinking, I didn't know they had brown bears on Prince of Wales Island.
It was, so at that point, I'm in my tree stand right near where the game camera is on a trail that they've been using. And sure enough, first I moved closer and closer to a game trail in the thicket because they weren't coming out onto the road. So I started out on the road, and I had a great bear come out on the road that I almost shot. We had 2 days left, and I'm like, yeah, I want to shoot this bear. I filmed him coming out on the road, and he was coming up the hill. He caught me by surprise, so I didn't really have the cameras all going. But I filmed him come out on the road and at 20 yards, and he's a great bear. I was going to shoot him. He's rubbed on the bottom, but after seeing him, I just couldn't shoot the other bear. I already have a great bear at home, but it's like if I go home empty, I'll just do it. So basically, we moved the tree stand a little closer into the thicket in the timber, and so I'm hiking in. I'm going into the tree stand. I got my bow on my backpack, and I got my rifle in my hand just in
You're
case.
smart.
Well, at this point, I'm like,
Because he's a big bear.
yeah. At this
There's
point,
big bears over where you're at. You've confirmed that there are some ogres around you.
yes, there's a couple big bears on that camera. So I got the rifle out, and then I see this bear like 30 yards from my tree stand, and I'm like, and he's walking away, and I know it's him. It's the monster. And I decided, I want to shoot one with a bow. But the sheer size of this bear just got me. I didn't want to risk losing him, trying to stalk him with my bow and get in bow range. So I dropped him with the rifle. I was like, no, he's going down. I just went for it.
Oh, you don't even have to think about that for half a second.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
just this massive black shadow moving through the forest.
Yeah, it was.
Pull up that rifle and boom!
Yeah. No, I'm totally happy with the rifle kill. I'm totally thrilled with it. Love it. I'm glad I have the bear. I mean, he's just truly special.
So, I had read in preparation for this hunt, about hunting bears and the fact that rarely do they bleed and leave a blood trail. And we found that to be the case.
Yeah.
With both my bear and your bear. Your bear, we didn't even find a single drop of blood.
Yeah, with the rifle shot, I don't know if it's true with a bow. Just because a bow causes
so much damage.
bleeding,
Yeah.
a different cut. But the trauma caused by a bullet seems to... The bears just don't seem to bleed a lot.
No, especially if they have fat on them. the fat,
Fat in the hide seemed to plug
Kinda.
the hole.
plug it, and then a lot of the blood hangs up in the hair.
Yeah.
Especially these bears up here in POW.
Mhm.
Their hair is so long and wiry, it just seems to hold.
Just soaks up the blood. And so this bear that you shot, your first bear, that was a tough track job. Took us all day, and we had to call it quits, and we had to go find it in the morning.
Yeah, and
Well, the
initially
evening, the rest of the evening, and then find it the next day.
that was ridiculous and
dude-
quite discouraging.
Now, you gotta admit, I'm like Sherlock Holmes out there. I'm like Indian tracker extraordinaire.
Brian turned into a bloodhound, and you didn't even know you had it in you.
No, I've gotten better at.
We were out there.
I have gotten better at
for
tracking.
hours trying to find that thing.
That's blood, dude.
That's blood.
Smell it.
See the splatter on the left-hand side?
Yeah, that's
blood. Finally, we found some blood. Chad was getting worried, I could tell. I was perfectly not worried.
This is
going on this
a
log.
smile of relief for
Okay.
finding blood. I think we've
There's
gone
more blood, I see it.
over 100 yards from where we shot him. And our first drop of blood.
So much relief finding blood just because you don't know when you're tracking these footprints and these smashed bushes and broken twigs if you're following the bear you think you're following or a bear that was here earlier this afternoon. Well, I'll say this, that I've done a lot of tracking in the Northwest, hunting blacktails, and finding drops of blood in fern leaves and on, in thick forest. I've learned the sign is there, the trail is there. You just gotta look. And bears are big. Bears are big. And so they
Yeah.
break stuff when they go through the woods, especially after they've been shot and they're running. But your bear didn't bleed hardly at all. I mean, I had to find specks.
It was specks.
And I'm on my hands and knees because it's literally like a wall of brush. I have GoPro footage of us just fishing our way through that stuff. We had snips and we had to prune our way through the forest. Careful not to disturb the sign. Follow his tracks. There was stretches where there was no blood for 30 or 40 yards, and I had to, just try to find his footprints and stuff and broken branches. And
it's amazing that animals that big can go into some of those tiniest, tightest places.
yeah.
And not snap branches. They did leave some sign, but
Yeah. No,
it was crazy. And there was times I was like, Brian, where are you going? There's no way a bear could go through there.
Yeah, the tiniest little holes, and I'm shimmering my way through it, and I'm like, he went through here. No, and I'm like, blood. There's more blood. Every time it was like a celebration, but that bear went way too far. It turned out you really didn't hit vitals. You hit an artery.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of internal
A
bleeding.
lot of internal bleeding. Yeah.
But it was kind of slow. Most bears go down. If you hit a bear in a spot that's fatal, they're dead. Like a bear goes down, like they don't go far at all. Not like a deer and elk.
Yeah.
You hit them in vitals, they're dead.
Yeah.
But you wing them somewhere, they'll probably survive. Depends on how bad they're wounded, but they're tough.
Yeah. Hit him in the shoulder, but just barely
In the
missed the
chest.
lungs. In the chest, yeah.
So, I'm not sure exactly what messed up, and we didn't gut him because he was by then a day or so. But the meat was
We
good.
don't want to venture inside.
We pulled all the meat out. That looked good,
Yeah.
and we got it all frozen and stuff, and got all my meat too. Tons of fat came off of my bear. We're gonna render that and try to eat it, and see how that tastes. I think it's gonna be good. Do a little Stephen Ranilla meat eater kind of. We also got
Try
a few,
different ways to cook it up.
got a few Rocky Mountain oysters, although I'm not sure that's what you call bear testicles that are supposed to be a delicacy.
Yeah, that's what the
The local gal said, right?
Well, they're a
Yeah.
delicacy in China.
Yeah.
We're eating them.
One
They're
for
supposed to
you,
taste like
one for you.
Supposed to taste like bacon.
Supposedly.
I don't know, but
Wrap them in bacon. There you go.
everything tastes good wrapped in bacon. So
Man.
no, we're gonna do that. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind
Probably.
of our strategy, kind of what we did. Calling.
Yeah, so Brent and I went to the sporting goods store and was talking to the locals, and they use a deer bleat. And that's the season right now. All these does up here are dropping fawns.
We filmed one. We saw a bunch. They just dropped them
Just
on the
an hour
roadside.
old.
Yeah, it was like brand new. They just came out, and these fawns are like, and they make this little bleeding sound. Well, this island is covered in deer like mice, and they're everywhere.
They follow you around like a puppy dog.
They followed Chad down the road for like 300 yards. Chad's like still behind us, and it just kept about a 20-yard distance and just
They're
watching.
curious, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just want to know what's up.
I wanted to put a leash on it and take it home.
Can we keep it?
Oh yeah. So that was that.
So we brought you the deer bleat.
Yep. And so I climbed into the tree stand, and excuse me. I climbed into the tree stand. And I used the deer bleat, and it worked like a charm. Bear came out of the woods, walked right up to my tree stand.
Yeah.
That was the one I passed, actually. Not the bear I wanted, but it worked. It seemed to work. I mean, I don't know. It was about a half-hour difference from when I made the call, but I could hear the sound of a bear approaching. You know.
I don't know how that would work in the fall. But the people at the sporting goods store swore by it. Said,
Yeah, she said
Worked
she's called
too
me
well.
from her backyard.
yeah.
She's sitting out there just testing it because they just got it and she was checking it out. And in comes this mom with her 2 bear cubs.
Yeah.
Says she won't go in her backyard anymore.
Yeah.
Smart lady.
Well, it's sunny here all week. It was sunny all week. It was gorgeous weather. Normally, Prince of Wales is known for having a lot more rain, but
Couldn't have asked for better weather.
It was
Phenomenal.
Brent got a sunburn. A
Flying.
southeast Alaska
Sitting all pretty.
sunburn. The ferry ride. We'll talk about some more of this trip tomorrow or the next day. We're pretty tired tonight. But we just wanted to cover some of our trip while we're here and while it's fresh in our minds.
Our last night here, we decided to splurge on a hotel room.
Yeah, that's where we're at. We're
We're
at
gonna
the,
sleep on a bed tonight.
what is it called? The Shelter Cove?
Shelter Cove.
Shelter Cove.
Shelter Cove.
They
So-
normally. It's a funny story how we ended up here. We'll go into details about it tomorrow.
Well,
But-
basically, we have the whole lodge to ourselves.
We have
Nobody's
a whole
here.
hotel. They're
Yeah,
like,
they do fishing charters for the most of the year, and
There's
then
not even a worker here tonight.
yeah, there's no one here. Like the guy, it's the coolest dude ever. Just gave us the code to the place, gave us a key, and was like, "Here's your room. Just leave it here on the counter."
dude,
Have-
the
hope you had a good
whole
visit.
hotel is like ours. We're
There
like,
ain't no
you
one
know,
here.
Only at Prince of Wales does this happen.
Yeah.
The
And in
lady
fact, we
who
got-
locked the bears for us. All of our bear meat is sitting in her cooler outside of her house.
Yeah.
Super nice people up here.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So, we're going to enjoy last night on POW.
It's a nice bed.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
gotta catch the ferry in the morning.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
something we gotta cover on another podcast. That the ferry ride and get into that in some detail.
We'll do that tomorrow on the ferry.
So, anyway, that's it for the Gritty Bowman podcast from Prince of Wales Island, Alaska, 2015.
Success.
2000 success. Rah! Yeah.
It was a long. This is day 10. We've been at it for 10 days.
That's the thing. And once my dad left, Camp Cook was gone. We started going hungry and getting unnourished. And
Meals went down the tube.
yeah, my brother, he stepped up a little bit, but he's not like my dad.
You guys just complain too much about my cooking, so it's not worth it.
Actually, Brent made us some pretty good meals after Dad left, so that was great. It was awesome having Brent along, and so. All right,
Out.
it up. We're out. Stay gritty. All right, folks, that's it for today's podcast. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you out there supporting the podcast. Aaron Snyder and I will be getting together later this week to put together some more backcountry episodes. We got some cool reviews on iTunes lately. Brian Langley left us a review. Big thanks for that. We appreciate that. Thanks to West Tex, Music Lover, and SBC FF15, and Jordan Kennedy, and Bo Blunder, to name a few. STAP said, the audio quality and editing could stand some improvement, but I give it 5 stars for content. I really enjoyed the last few episodes with Aaron Snyder. There's no pretense or foolish bravado to be found here. These guys are honest, genuine, and damned gritty. I really appreciate that feedback. Thanks, STAP. If you haven't already, please take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. Thanks again, everybody, and stay gritty.